why fragmentation leads to such a wild west of standards.
So something my manager loves to say is that APIs come in a lot of weird and wonderful ways, but I like to refer it in the way that Dan's put it out there. It is very much a wild west. There are many different API standards, many different architecture standards, and so there's a lot of different fragmentation that can happen. One thing that we need to keep in mind is all the different API types. So you've got your standard REST APIs. That's one thing that Cycler is set up best to handle, is being able to have REST endpoints and get the data back from those REST endpoints. There's also GraphQL, which is an API standard that I think is very good at getting back custom data and retrieving just what you want from the API as well. One thing we also need to look at as well is authorization, so authentication standards. There are many different types of authorization. OAuth 2 is a standard, but even then there are different types of OAuth 2. So you've got auth code, where you're just receiving an authorization code based off of an auth call, but you've also got client credentials, where you're giving a certain amount of client credentials and then using that for your OAuth 2 call. But you've also got authentication standards with basic and API key as well. So there's many different sort of fragmentation with authentication standards as well. Another thing we've got is the routes to data. So essentially, you need to think about the data that you're giving as part of your API and how the end user is going to retrieve that data. So if a certain method that you're providing requires some information in the request to be sent, are you giving enough read endpoints to retrieve the data that needs to be sent? That's an important point for that. So if there's any required methods that need to be sent for a post method, for example, do you have list endpoints or read endpoints that will retrieve the same data? And then there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of fragmentation there. And that can be difficult because APIs come in a lot of weird and wonderful ways, and that's one thing that we think about there.